Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Phenomenon Paranormal Podcast. Again, my name is Christina.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Anthony.
And we like to talk about all things creepy, weird, paranormal, otherworldly.
Right.
You know, so if you like that kind of stuff, I think you'll really enjoy our podcast. And if you haven't seen our first episodes, you know, feel free to go back to the beginning. I mean, we have a lot, like 19 on audio, which we will also be tied into here. You can find that in the info box. And then we also now have had several of our video podcasts in the works. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see everything that is coming up for us. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, I guess, which is, you know, we talk about a lot of weird stuff all over the place, right? And urban legends and things like that. So UFOs, if you didn't see our most recently released video. But today we're going to be talking about Latin American
Paranormal tales.
Paranormal tales, creepy stories, beings, I guess you could say, and a couple
maybe
cryptids.
Yeah.
So it's a little variety, but all very creepy.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to start off with Allie, and she's going to talk about something that I'm sure you may have heard of, but we're going to go for it.
I feel like if you haven't heard of it, you must be living under a rock,
Right.
but
I
I'm
would
still
think.
here to explain it just in case. So I'm talking about the El Chupacabra. So for those who don't know, he is basically supposed to be a cryptid or animal-like creature that has vampire tendencies.
Okay.
So to start off, first off, chupar means to suck, and cabra means goat. So it literally can be translated to goat sucker.
Okay.
So that's why he got his name. So he first came about actually in 1995 in Puerto Rico.
It seems like it was way further back.
It feels
but
like
yeah,
it,
I guess
but
95 is a little
That's
while
when the
ago now.
first reported sightings were.
Okay.
Okay. So in various villages, the creature was reportedly seen attacking livestock. So it's known for going after, goats, sheep, other farm animals, and even pets.
Yeah.
So it basically would attack the animals and then suck their blood out until they died. And then leave them for dead.
So they don't eat the animal.
They don't eat the animal, they just suck the blood out.
Okay.
So again, vampire creature of sorts.
Yeah.
But it's also been seen in Mexico and even the continental United States. So there's different reasonings for it that people come up with, of course. So some say it's just an urban legend. Others say, it's a cryptid that we just haven't fully discovered yet. But other people even think that it's actually a dog of some sort or canine creature that has mange. Okay. And there's a reason for that because of how he looks, right?
Right.
So I'll get into that. But they think it's mange, which makes them lose their hair, have thicker skin, and smell really bad.
Okay.
So that's a lot of the features that a chupacabra has. And they say that they're probably attacking livestock and different animals like that because they're easy prey, because they're sick.
Right.
That's their theory, right?
Okay.
However, if you really describe a chupacabra, it doesn't sound like any canine I've seen.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's just me. So it's been described in two different ways.
Okay.
So some say it's a heavy creature about the size of a small bear, and they also say it has a row of spikes along its back. So that one I haven't seen quite as much.
Okay.
But it is a possible description people give. So the other one that's more common, and they say that it's a much smaller wolf-like creature with no hair that can hop like a kangaroo. Ooh, kangaroo. I was like kangaroo. Okay. And it has long fangs.
Yeah.
So it's a very creepily described creature.
Has anyone ever caught video or a photo of what they think is a chupacabra?
They have, but then they, like anything, the scientists try and obviously explain it away. Like, like I said, like it's just a sick dog or it's a canine hybrid of some sort. But it doesn't look like anything you really have seen
like
before.
a dog, like.
Yeah. But again, who knows, right?
Right.
So some people actually believe the sightings and descriptions people were giving, because this was in 1995, was based off a science fiction movie called Species.
Oh, okay.
So their theory
movie.
is that people were thinking of the movie when they saw whatever this was,
Okay.
and like associated the two.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But again, who knows?
Right. I wonder if any vets have like weighed in on like, does mange even cause that kind of behavior in an animal? Because from what I know of that particular condition in dogs, I mean, it makes them really, really sick.
Yeah.
To the point where they're extremely like fatigued
Lethargic.
and it's like it doesn't seem like the kind of thing where they're going to be attacking.
Exactly.
And you think an animal wouldn't leave the body behind if they were driven to attack other animals?
Yeah, and just suck the blood out.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
That I don't understand.
And there has been the livestock found just like that.
Right, just drained like that, which
drained.
is also similar to what they say happens in a lot of alien sightings.
Well, I was going to bring that up when she was done, but
Okay.
I've heard of some things with aliens involved. So.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people actually refer to the El Chupacabra as like almost like the southern Bigfoot, because it's such a like well-known cryptid creature that no one can actually pin down.
Right, right.
But yet there's been sightings and different things that have occurred to make you wonder. You know? And some people feel like this will go on for years and years, much like Bigfoot has, where you never truly know the answer.
Yeah, of course.
But there's enough evidence out there to make you go, huh, that's a little off-putting, you know?
Exactly.
So, but what were you going to say about the animal?
Well, I mean, I because we're Hispanic, I love a lot of Latin American stuff, and so whenever it comes up, I always pay attention. In the 90s, there was a couple different schools of thoughts for the more extreme thoughts, which were UFO related, because a lot of UFO related sightings, when they crop up, tend to happen with other paranormal activity. We've talked about that before.
Right.
You'll see Bigfoot or werewolf sightings and all this stuff and cattle mutilations. And so when this was first starting, a lot of people started seeing a lot more UFOs in the sky at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, we were only a couple years away from Phoenix, which, South American states, or the South states of the United States, we're seeing a lot of Chupacabra sightings.
Yeah.
And in Phoenix, you had the Phoenix Lights.
Right.
And just a couple years later.
Yeah.
So UFOs was one. The other thing was real popular and still is popular is government experimentation.
Right.
Yeah, right.
We've seen even online, bodies of animal carcasses that have washed up on beaches, that really don't make a whole lot of sense.
No, that look like part pig, part goat, part fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
I've
sorts
seen
of
some
things.
really weird ones.
Yeah, a lot of conspiracy theorists thought the El Chupacabra sightings were sightings of some sort of creature or creatures
Mutations.
that were mutated or got loose.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have, government were testing nuclear weapons at a certain point.
Right.
And so a lot of people were like, well, did the nuclear weapons mutate some sort of creatures that lived in the deserts of these areas and they got loose? And then they started migrating down. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know they've been seen in Texas and Phoenix, New Mexico, a lot of those states. So I've always thought it was interesting because it's such a recent discovery. It has become so ingrained in Hispanic culture now.
And it does feel like it's been around, like you said, for like a lot longer.
It really does.
Yeah.
But when you look at, that's like 28 years, I guess that is a little bit of time, but
Don't say that. I'm 20.
I know.
It's fine.
Time flies.
Yeah.
We won't talk about my birthday coming up. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because, I mean, every culture has canine-like figures that pull up, I mean, even in England, you got the Black Hound.
Yeah.
That's really well known, and, some that say that it's a spectral figure, the ghost of a hound that used to live in that area. Some say it's an actual hound. Chupacabra seems very similar because you just don't know. But the fact that it's only drinking the blood out of these creatures,
interesting note for me.
That to me is what makes it strange, because you could say it's an animal with some sort of disease or anything, and that's fine. But most animals that are driven by disease tend to eat the entire animal that they attack. So it makes no sense.
Exactly.
Why it would just be driven to drink the blood.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
It's like a modern day vampire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You ever heard of the El Chupacabra, Ray?
Yeah, I have. It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, right?
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Maybe it's what's left of vampires they've turned into what they've turned into.
Exactly.
The last of a dying breed, so to speak.
Vampirism was very popular in Mexico too. And,
true.
The other thing
usually in Transylvania and Romania.
Yeah.
And all that, but
well,
England.
yes.
a lot of people, if you remember, skinwalker has become kind of a catch-all term for a lot of things because it's very popular in Native American culture, and so nowadays people associate skinwalkers with everything.
Yeah.
True.
But the other thing people don't always realize is that Native American cultures don't just extend to the United States, but further into Mexico as well.
Yeah.
And so the concept, there's been this video in like the 90s, actually, remember, and on a Native American reservation near the border of what people claimed was a skinwalker. And you can see on camera these two large eyes staring out from a cave that the national or the police of the reservation.
I know what video.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
the
it's
Navajo
not that
Rangers, I think, is what they're called.
Yeah, the Navajo Rangers, and they caught it on video, and they still don't know what it is, but people take it very seriously. And
Made
this was
a very horrendous sound, I remember.
Yeah, and this is not far from the border. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that this is all in a very similar area makes you wonder, are they related? Or are we really seeing multiple creatures?
Well, in Native American culture, like you bring up, think about what the skinwalker supposedly is too, is they transform a lot of times into dogs and into
it's like
wolf-like creatures. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? Maybe
one culture's skinwalker could be another culture's Chupacabra. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Much like the many different versions of Bigfoot, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
Even in like what state of
Exactly.
the United States.
Yeah.
It's
Very different. Yeah.
everywhere. So
That's very true.
yeah.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good way to start off. We're going to go to Anthony next, and Anthony has a real fun one that I was like, and we'll see if Frey's heard of this one. I don't know.
Yeah, we're definitely going to delve into some like mythology aspects of it, but I think is actually going to tie into another thing we've covered before, so I'll get to that at the end. I'm going to start off because this is how it goes back to stories that parents tell their children when they want them to behave, okay? So I'll say this. Beware, a Latin American mother told her children before they went off to bed. He's out there waiting for the right moment. El Duende will take you away in the middle of the night to his cave in the middle of the forest. He'll keep you there and no one will know because you'll be deep in the forest where nobody can hear you scream.
Oh.
That is a tale that a lot of Latin American parents would tell their children at night before they went to bed.
What was wrong with our ancestors?
I mean, when we grew up, we had, what was it?
Behave,
Kukui, the kukui, remember? I mean,
we all, absolutely.
Any Hispanic, Latin American family will know that they all had those stories that we were told when growing up.
Between that and La Llorona.
Yeah, La Llorona.
Our family even make up one like Rodolfo.
Rodolfo.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Absolutely.
I still don't know where that came from.
That's
but
a whole story.
We don't even know.
That's a personal family one. So.
Yeah.
But El Duende, this is the first of many stories you'll hear Latin American families telling. But it's actually very popular in multiple cultures, which is an interesting thing. And I'll get into how that is at the end. But you can see them in the Philippines, in Spain, Portugal, all over the place. So the interesting thing about El Duende is that people describe this creature as both evil and good. There is differing depending on the culture and the circumstance.
Okay.
El Duende is pretty much a gnome or dwarf-like figure. Some even will say it's an elf.
Okay.
But they're, tiny, almost childlike figures that in some cultures can actually grow to the height of a man. And they either dwell in the forests, in caves, much like goblins.
Right.
Or they live in the walls of a child's bedroom.
Well, that's a little upsetting.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about gnome-like creatures. I'm not a fan.
I'm gonna be sharing. We're gonna be sharing some videos while we're talking about this. I found some videos, and of course, how much of that is made up and how much is not, it's up to you to decide.
But I'm telling you, the Duende videos that I've seen,
Yeah.
are all so creepy.
I found one of a family playing soccer in their living room.
I remember that.
And they're playing. All of a sudden, this little thing runs out and starts giggling, all the kids start screaming and running away. It's weird to see.
It's kind of like if you've ever seen that movie, one of the Stephen King shorts that Cat's Eye or something like that.
Yeah, Cat's Eye.
But she's got a little creature like that in her room. And he's not so chill.
Well, there's another video of what looks like someone is having a doll in their hand. Right? And they're playing with this doll. It's a weird looking gnome-like doll.
Okay.
But the feet are moving independently. And then it's like all of a sudden the doll or duende recognizes that the camera's on it and it goes stiff. And it just stops moving.
Okay.
And then the legs are swinging in the guy's hand and they're not...
It's like Allie's worst nightmare.
I know.
Literally my worst nightmare. Yeah.
The other part of this nightmare, this evil version of the duende...
Is
that wasn't the evil version.
No, that wasn't.
No, this is still evil duende.
The fun version.
Okay.
Yeah, the duende that lives in the child's bedroom in the walls lives in the walls because at night they'll come out claiming that they're going to clip the child's toenails. But instead, they mistake the entire toe for the toenail and they'll chop the whole toe off.
Okay.
And then take it.
Okay.
So that's the legend that a lot of...
with all the toes?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Creepy foot fetish.
But that was the negative El Duende.
Right?
That's the creepy El Duende.
Okay.
Then there's the El Duende that is a guide to travelers who will help missing hikers or children or even small critters in the forest when they're lost.
Okay.
And help guide them home. They're protectors. They're also supposed to, when they live in the home, protect the home. And they're kind of similar to that other elf-like creature, brownies.
Oh, brownies. Okay.
That a lot of people who believe in witchcraft and paganism will keep a little stool and a little hearth nearby for the house brownie.
Okay.
Who are like elf-like creatures or gnome-like creatures who are supposed to keep the house protected. Of spirits and stuff.
I don't want one of those.
You don't want one of those?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Can I just real quick just insert a little story here? Okay. Because Allie has not ever been a fan of gnomes.
She hates gnomes.
Hates gnomes. And once when she was a little girl, I didn't know this yet, but I got her like this little picture that had a gnome. And gnomes, they were supposed to it had like a little saying with it, basically like it was going to be watching over her in her room. Little did I know she was not a fan.
I was terrified.
And that explained why this picture would always end up off the wall and in her closet.
Yes, I was going to say that's where it was.
She never wanted to look at it.
It was a good thought. But...
I tried, but yeah, I get it. I was always afraid of clowns.
She won't watch Romeo and Juliet to this day.
Yeah, I know. We can't convince her.
Not really.
I gotta step in here.
Oh, please.
I love gnomes, and
good.
I actually make a bunch of little clay gnomes.
Do you
really?
If you want one, I call them good luck charms.
Yeah.
I
would love
it. Face my fear now.
She does.
And I think we need that to be the new mascot of the podcast right now.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll put a picture right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. One of the, we've talked before on the podcast about Hellier, which is a show, a series that we watch with these people that we follow, the Newkirks and whatnot. But one of the crew of Hellier, Tyler Strand, he's big time into gnomes and collects these certain specific gnomes. And
he does like Hollywood effects, for creature effects. He builds like the creatures and films and stuff. And
he's a great special effects artist.
Yeah, so he does a lot of clay statues and stuff for making the creatures on the documentary.
Cool
so I wholeheartedly support your gnome creations.
Yes.
And I think we need to make one that's the mascot for the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll name them and everything. It'll be our little El Duende.
Ooh,
For
I
sure.
love it.
We got to put it on the table with us every time we do an episode. And wherever we go on a live investigation.
Yeah.
Always going to be in front of me, huh?
Oh, this is great.
It'll be Allie's companion forever.
I love it.
Yep.
All right.
Maybe we'll name him Ray.
Yeah, there you go.
Like
Ray the gnome.
Hey. So El Duende.
Yes.
Some people think that it's a flesh and blood cryptid.
Right.
Living, breathing. Some will say it's very similar to Bigfoot or El Chupacabra.
Yeah.
There are others who believe that it's a spirit or elemental of some sort.
I was going to say he sounds more like an elemental.
Yeah, or an elf.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell him what an elemental is, though?
Elemental is kind of like just a spirit's like energy. They inhabit different parts of nature. You know how you hear fire elemental, ice elemental, thunder elemental.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are in games a lot, but it's a real thing. There are a lot of cultures who believe that elementals are like
Right.
living
Especially
energy beings.
Irish and Scottish culture.
Yeah. And there are other people who go to more extremes who can associate El Duende with interdimensional beings.
Okay.
You know, the way that, if you watch the videos especially, you'll see they'll literally pop out in the middle of the room out of nowhere and then just disappear.
It's like...
It makes no sense how they appear.
Have you ever seen that? It's an older horror movie that they also did a remake of. It's called A Trilogy of Terror.
I have not.
Okay.
Oh my God.
We're going to insert a picture of this.
Yes.
But the Zuni doll.
The Zuni doll.
It's from African culture.
Yes.
But they brought it to a film, and the way they brought this thing to life,
Scariest short horror thing I've ever seen.
And it's old, but it's still really scary.
It's one of the few older films that still scare me to my core. I had nightmares as a child from it.
Yeah.
Because my uncle and aunt let us watch it when we were little. So, that was terrifying.
The Zuni doll is just horrifying even to look at. And it has like a bunch of razor sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And a spear, and supposedly the thing with the Zuni doll is has a chain around its stomach, but if that chain comes off, then he comes to life. Mm-hmm. And boy, does he come to life, and with a knife in his mouth, and he's running around making the most hideous sounds.
Whoever the sound effects guy on that was,
great.
Because the thing that terrified me the most is when this little figure would start running on screen, you would hear the little
patter of
pitter patter
really fast,
and it was real fast, and you heard it going across the hard linoleum floor, and it was just terrifying.
Awesome. But this is what the duendes look like.
Yeah.
When they're running around in these videos, much like this little doll did, just running around really fast. Like,
the interesting thing is one of the going back to Hellier things. Because we always go back to Hellier at some point.
We do.
But not only are they described as goblin-like creatures as well, but some of the videos that we have, they almost look like they're wearing hoods.
Yes.
And if you remember from anyone who watches Hellier, you'll see this in season 2 a lot, but there are a lot of stories in the South, in Kentucky, of these hooded, almost gnome-like beings who appear in people's homes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they're carrying wands that if they zap you, you are paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the stories associated with what they were investigating in that show ended up involving those kind of beings in caves and tunnels. And it seems like El Duende is a lot similar to that. I mean, all these stories end up in caves or tunnels and small creatures. So what they are, I can't even begin to tell you.
What creeped me out about them is, in any of the videos I've seen, is that they... Like, okay, there's goblins that may look like little aliens or what have you. But these look like almost little crunched up old men.
Yeah.
Do you see the problem here?
No, they do. You'll see.
I don't want to see.
But really they do. They look like a little hunched over little old man in a shrunken form.
If we bring an El Duende into the studio, I'm sorry, Ray, because as much as we're talking about it now,
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, Ray wants to see all this stuff. I love it.
So the interesting thing is, we'll get into the origins of the El Duende in a second, but there's actual sightings done in 1961 in Belize, of all places. They were people who reported this to a researcher named Ivan Sanderson, and they reported 2 duendes in the forest kind of just watching him from the distance. Now, a lot of people think that what he was seeing, this person was seeing, were spider monkeys. Because spider monkeys were in that area, and some of the description matched what a spider monkey looked like, but not all of the description. The size of the creatures was a lot different than what a spider monkey typically looks like.
Right.
But there are a lot of primates in the area of Belize that this guy saw the sightings in. The description of the creatures were that of being 3 to 4 feet tall, with heavy shoulders, long arms, brown hair, flat yellowish faces, and long hair down the back of the neck and back.
See, all the ones I've seen, it's just like they have long hair. Look at Allie's face. Just don't
There's even been reports to Bigfoot sightings and locations. BigfootEncounters.com reported that Sanderson also wrote that some of the eyewitnesses saw the Duende carried or wore dried palm leaves that looked like some type of hat on its head.
Okay, yep.
So it wears hats too. So
we need to make a Duende doll.
Sanderson then stated that in his account that Mayans believed in a deity that looked like a very small man wearing a big hat and nothing else. According to their myths, the deity roamed the forest This being supposedly came out of hiding to place gifts before temples in Mayan culture.
Okay.
Now, the reason why this is interesting is El Duende, as I mentioned before, also was in Spain and Portugal and stuff. Well, the Duende actually started in Europe and was in a European folklore. But what happened was during the time that Spanish explorers, conquistadors came to the New World, to Latin America, when they were going to these places and bringing their missionaries and all this stuff to the Mayan people, who would later become the Hispanic people, they were bringing legends like El Duende with them and stories. There are stories in Europe of, small gnomish creatures, very similar, called El Duende, who would roam the woods and the forest roads and stuff. And the story was that if you heard El Duende, or just Duende in that culture, whistling, you had to get off the road because you did not want to be caught by Duende.
What do they do?
No one knows. So you just don't want to be caught.
See, the thing about these small creatures that freak me out is, like, if they're just, like, running around doing whatever they're doing. Yeah. It reminds me of Pet Sematary when Gabe came out from under the bed and just went like that on his ankle. I feel like that's what they do.
I don't trust 100%. Beds that don't have stuff blocking the underneath part. I don't like it. Exactly. It's the same thing as basement stairs that don't have backs on the stairs. Yeah. I don't like it. No.
Not a fan.
I'm telling you.
So what? Okay, just hypothetical, real quick. Sorry, Anthony. Real quick. You're standing on a forest road, and you have a duende, and then you have like one of those creepy clowns that would come out and chase people like during that big old clown craze.
Are you telling me I have to choose?
You gotta pick one. Which one that you gotta either battle or run away from, whatever.
She would just lay in the road and cry.
Yeah,
I'd be dead. I would totally die at that moment.
This episode's just become Allie's fear of gnomes.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
But that's why the Duende has actually gone to the Philippines and other cultures as well, is because it was brought over from European legends. Right. But it's become ingrained into Hispanic culture after all these hundreds of years. Yeah. So that got me thinking about, all the modern sightings we have, the videos that we see. I believe, the possibility of, interdimensional beings, because we've talked about Bigfoot possibly being interdimensional and stuff. Right. So that's a possibility. Elementals are a possibility. But what about thought forms? We've talked about thought form hauntings before, but thought forms aren't just extended to ghosts. Because a good modern example, I guess, would be the rake. Yeah. We've talked a little bit about the rake before, but the rake is, started off as a creepypasta, as a made-up story. But there are several videos now that show the rake coming out of the forests of different countries. Yeah. Right. Even in America.
I saw one this past week.
Yeah. But yet we know the rake wasn't real until the recent years. Yeah. So if enough people believe in this stuff, especially if explorers were bringing this legend over to the end of the Mayan era and what would become Latin America at that point, missionaries are bringing the Christian faith to the countries. They're also bringing all these legends with them. So if enough people start believing in all this stuff, does the Duende become real? Right. Is it alive because we brought it to life? Right. In other words.
Well, especially when someone believes something so deeply, and people do in their own faith believe in things so deeply. So, if they believe in something like this to their core and it was passed down from generation to generation. Yeah. I know just in growing up in a half Hispanic family, that things like you mentioned, the Kukui and, La Llorona, my grandmother used to tell me about, stuff like that as a kid, you believe that 100%. Yeah. And you're like, how many times would I go into a room that there was no light on and immediately my thought is, oh, the Kukui's in there. Yeah.
You got to run and go hit the light real quick so you can get to
go
the
back
bathroom.
And flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very real thing when you're growing up. So,
that's El Duende. So
it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh, what do you have there?
By the way, you like this mug? This, along with the shirts that my co-hosts are wearing.
Oh, what? This whole thing?
Yeah. Some examples of our new merch at the store. So if you guys want to get some of this merch, you go click the link in our description and you can get this. And we also have a special code for anyone who joins our Patreon. Oh. So you join our Patreon, you get a special code, and you get 15% off. So
that's right. if you saw our first video podcast, we talked about urban legends here locally in Virginia. Yeah. And one of them, the most infamous one, is the Bunny Man and Bunny Man Bridge. Yep. So you say his name 3 times and you might have a hatchet-wielding guy dressed in bunny suit coming after you. So you can get our Bunny Man tea, among other things at our store.
We got some great merch, and we're going to be adding more as time goes on. So please be sure, check out the store, sign up for our Patreon to get your discount, and that's our stuff. So
all right, very cool.
Turn it over to Christina, who's got the most fascinating one, I think, of all. Yeah,
I love this story. I mean, I have been wanting to talk about it for a long time on the podcast, and this one is not so much an entity, but just something that can, depending on the way you look at it, can either be very creepy, or it could be very, some people look at it as a blessing, believe it or not. Okay. So this is the story of the Corpse Bride of Chihuahua, Mexico, otherwise known as La Pascualita. Okay, so if you're not familiar with this, this all goes back to 1930. Okay. When the original shop owner of this bridal shop, this is the story, I should say. Her name was allegedly Pascuala Esparza, and she had a daughter who was going to get married, right? Great day for the family. Everything's, spectacular. And as she's getting ready on her wedding day, supposedly she gets bitten by a black widow spider. And, back in those days, it's not, let's go to the ER and get some anti-venom, So she died on her wedding day. Oh, wow. That's the story. And, of course, the family is devastated. Yeah. Shortly thereafter, this mannequin shows up in the window of the bridal shop. And there's something different about this mannequin. Okay, we're going to have pictures, let me tell you, on the screen for you guys to check out, because that's my favorite part of this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, these pictures are
the pictures.
They're fascinating.
They really are fascinating. This is why this has always stuck with me. Yeah. But, in general, when we see mannequins at any sort of store, no matter how they dress it up or what kind of great wig they might put on it, or accessories, they look like a mannequin, right? Yeah. They look very plastic with painted on eyes and whatever. It's mannequin. Not so much with this one. Okay. This one, as you will see, looks so much more like an actual person than a mannequin. Down to the textures of the skin, for lack of a better way to say it. Okay.
The picture of the hand is what always got me.
That's what I was going to get to, believe me. The eyes look very like glossed over eyes. Okay. And not artificial. Okay. They're almost looks like there's a life in the eyes. Interesting. It's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The other thing about her is that what people started saying, because then of course the rumors start going, right, that she was actually bore a striking resemblance to the daughter that died of the shop owner. Okay. So people started surmising that it might have actually been the embalmed body of Pascuala Esparza's daughter. Okay. Or La Pascualita.
Interesting.
Okay. So other things that lent to this, as you mentioned, were the hands. And we're going to throw a picture of the hands here. They have nails. I don't know the last time you saw a store mannequin with actual fingernails on.
Yeah, never.
Or wrinkles and ridges in their fingers and hands. A palm reader would have a field day with the lines on this hand. Veins that look like you can see veins, even dirt almost in some of the ridges under the nails, yellowing of the nails a little bit. Okay. This does not look like a plastic mannequin's hand. Right. No. If somebody put together this mannequin, they are the greatest effects artists I've ever seen. Right. Because it looks like a person's hands, 100%. The other thing is, only a select few people that actually work at the store are allowed to change the mannequin's dress that they have on at any given day. Okay. And the people who do have always reported that she has varicose veins in her legs, that the body itself looks like an actual human body and not a mannequin. Okay. So, a lot of people don't want to be the one to be dressing this mannequin in particular. Because they just, some people are very creeped out by that, of course. Others feeling maybe, is it disrespectful? Would she want to be, forever, in this window? Right. Who knows? Or is it just the train of thought was the mother just couldn't let her go. Right. So that's the train of thought. There are other things that go along with this, though, too. There are employees that have come out and said, whenever I am near her, my hands start sweating and I start feeling lightheaded and just not right when I'm around her. Other people feel like her eyes follow you around the store, or if a lot of people go here to this store just to see her. And she's always in the storefront encased in glass. Not like all the other mannequins, but she's in particular encased in this glass case. Right. And they will be standing out there to see her. And if they're walking back and forth, they think that she changes her head position slightly. There are people who have videotaped it as well. Yeah. When that happens. Or that the eyes themselves look like the pupils move, things like that. So there's also another theory about how she came to be. Now, this is a really out there theory, of course. Right. The theory is that there was a French magician that heard the story of this mannequin and how lifelike it looked. And he became obsessed with the mannequin. It's a very, pretty mannequin. Right. If this was a real person, it would be a very beautiful woman. Right. So he became obsessed with her. And every night after the store closed, when he was in town, he would bring her to life using his magician powers. Okay. And that he would take her out on the town and take her dancing and whatnot before he returned her to the store before the morning. Okay. And that is how she actually, after doing that for a while, she never fully went back to her mannequin state.
So you think this was a movie life size or what?
I know,
right.
Come on, man.
Or that 90s or 80s movie Mannequin.
Theory
with Kim Cattrall.
Yeah. And we've all seen videos online of, other stores with mannequin, like actual mannequins that move around and stuff when there's paranormal activity. But this is a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah. This does not look like what you've seen.
No.
So there have been, people who, skeptics, of course, that come along and, somebody who was a mortician who said, there's no way that even an embalmed body could last. It's been 90 plus years, could last that long in a glass case with, eventually there'd be breakdown. Yeah. That's what he's saying. So he says there's no way that could be. People have even taken her, to study at like a university. I think it was supposed to be, or museum. Okay. And they really couldn't come to any sort of conclusive, comment. Yeah. Right. But then there was this controversy, and I'd have to look more into it. I couldn't find it when I wanted to, but that when she came back, that they said, it wasn't the same one. Yeah. That someone actually stole her. Oh, God. So that's another thing. Yeah. But yet, there is one in the window to this day. Yeah. Right. And so people come from all over to come get their dress there because brides believe that it blesses their marriage. Okay. If they go and get a dress and stand in front of the mannequin, almost like for her to give her blessing onto their marriage. Wow. So it's interesting. This is one of those things too, like when we talked about the Bunny Man before and about this bar owner that just really leaned in hard to the Bunny Man legend, and he's got his business going. Yeah. The current owners of, and the name of the shop, in case anyone wants to know and go there, is La Popular Bridal Shop in Chihuahua, Mexico. Okay. And he's really leaned into the La Pascualita thing here. Yeah. All of the owners that have owned this shop, and it has, the name of the shop is like this big, and then the rest is home of La Pascualita. You know, they have all the lore for everybody, you know, seeing. There's always a line of people, you know, daily that come to see her.
I mean, I've got to imagine it'd be really interesting to see up close and personal.
I would love to see it up close one day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, just the pictures are enough to make you go, you know, who makes a mannequin like that?
I've never seen.
And they've never been able to come out and say, "Oh no, we tracked it down, and this particular company made this mannequin."
Right.
Yeah.
No one's ever been able to come out and say that. And I know, I mean, 1930s, maybe records and whatnot, but you have to also think too that way back then, like how advanced.
Exactly, like what materials would even be available to make it look like that?
Yeah.
You know?
You might say, okay, well now we have like Madame Tussauds, you know, the wax museum, right? And they have some very realistic looking, you know, what do they call them, pieces or what have you.
Statues.
But we, you know, didn't necessarily have that back then.
Well, you know, the original Madame Tussauds during the French Revolution had to use like both the embalming process for actual bodies.
Oh, really?
For the mannequins. Like, I don't know if she like used them in the actual mannequin or she would have to mold them on the actual process onto the body.
Right.
And then take it off of the body.
Yeah.
Like part by part. But Madame Tussauds during the Revolution was an actual person who did that.
Right.
Yeah.
And bodies were involved. So it makes you wonder.
Huh. Interesting.
Is that a similar process that they used before they had materials available to make lifelike mannequins? You know.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting take. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I will say that when you see like a side-by-side picture with Pascualita, who's supposed to be her, next to the mannequin, I mean, the features are very similar. You could see that, you know, that could be what her daughter would have looked like. Although nobody has pulled up a picture and said this was the daughter.
Right.
To really compare it. But you could definitely see the similarities.
I mean, does the daughter have like a burial place of any kind? I mean, has anyone ever been able to find like
Not in any of the research that I saw. I couldn't see like anyone's verified a place of burial.
Because that would be the interesting thing to me is like if there's no place of burial, whatever happened to the daughter if that wasn't in the doll, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, legend takes over. Right? So how much is true and how much is, you know, the legend just got this life of its own, like we've seen so many times before. But it's an interesting one, regardless of where this thing came from. I will say it's very eerie to look at.
I mean, legends are powerful. Legends are very powerful, and so is the belief that goes into legends.
Right.
So even if that wasn't originally the daughter, let's for argument's sake, I think all the energy that's been poured into this legend, you know, has probably increased all the activity around the mannequin.
I'm sure.
To make things appear the way that they do and things happen the way they do. So whether, I mean, it's just as real. Doesn't matter whether it started that way or not. Our belief made it so.
I sit there and I thought about this when I was doing the research. It's like, okay, so let's say, you know, it's not the daughter or what have you, but what at that time in the shop owner's life makes you say, I'm going to seek out the most realistic looking mannequin I can for my shop? Like, what would be the motivation for that at that point in time to have this extremely lifelike looking mannequin?
Exactly.
That looks so much like my daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
So
in a time when you're probably grieving the loss and stuff. I mean,
that was interesting to me. Even, I mean, let's say it's because she was grieving, maybe, you know, but still, I mean, how do you find the person who's able to do that so effectively after all? That's just interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures, Ray?
I just looked them up. That was
the hands, right?
Yeah, and when you said people's hands get sweaty when they get close to them, I got literal chills.
Yeah, that's because like we always talk about energy on this show, right? So it's like the energy that if let's say that was her embalmed daughter, that could hang around maybe in a situation like that.
Oh yeah.
A lot of emotions involved too. Like besides the scary part and the creepy part, you know, if there's any truth to the legend at all, the fact that that's her daughter, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, sadness, but also, you know, love involved. And I think those two powerful emotions could help drive up the energy that people's belief infuses into the legend. I think it's a powerful storm of energy going on.
Well, I'll tell you what my feeling is and this is a very sad way to look at it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
My thing is, let's say it was her daughter, or if nothing else, her daughter's energy's hanging around the shop. You know, her day that she was looking so forward to getting married ended so tragically. How sad would it be if that were you and you're hanging around watching all these other happy brides getting ready to get married and you never got to realize that dream?
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would be just so sad.
It'd be devastating.
Yeah, I wouldn't like want to be hanging around that situation.
No.
I mean, that could stir up any negativity associated with it, you know, because that's a very sad thing.
Yeah, sadness can generate a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, on that note.
So, that's our show, everyone.
But no, check her out. We'll have, you know, links to everything. And hopefully, you know, there's other stories out there maybe that you guys know of. You can share with us.
Yeah.
Let us know. You know, we're always happy to go back to things like this down the road and explore it even further. And like we said, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, notify. Check out the merch because you know you want a Bunny Man shirt.
Yeah,
you wouldn't.
I know, right? Everyone needs one.
Sign up for our Patreon if you want
Yes.
exclusive stuff. Maybe we do an Estes method, trying to see if we can reach out to any of the beings that we talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe not Duende for Allie here.
No.
But some other ones.
That's the number one we have to do.
Yeah.
Duende.
You know, anything we've talked about here today or in other episodes, if you want us to try and do some experiments on, join our Patreon and maybe you'll see some of that. So,
Let us know.
and be sure to check out all our other stuff down in the description box. And that's it, everyone.
And we'll be back next time. We're going to have something special coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we can't really announce it yet, but we got a special episode coming up
Yeah.
that we're looking forward to sharing with you. So,
Yeah, you won't want to miss it.
yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. And remember, don't fear the unknown.